Today, I'm going to be talking about ceremony and its relation to PTSD and alcoholism in war veterans. I chose this topic because for me, it is a topic that I'm very interested in since I was little. When I met this family friend that had fought at war and had PTSD, I remember when we were in the car once and he heard some fireworks and some gunshots here in Nicaragua, and he reacted to it like shouting and getting very intense. So that's why I decided to do this topic and relate Leslie Marmon Silko's ceremony to a real world topic. I chose the quote, "He cries all the time, sometimes he vomits when he cries. Why does he cry, Tayo? He cries because they are dead and everything is dying." This quote is from Leslie Marmon Silko's ceremony, and it is said while Tayo, who is the main character and is a war veteran, is at the hospital, and he is speaking in third person about himself. This is a way that shows that he's trying to distance himself even further from the pain that he's feeling. And he states that he cries because they are not dead and because everything is dying, which shows that he feels guilt for those who died at war and those that he had to kill. My first link, it's called "How Common is PTSD?" It is from the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs and talks about how common PTSD is, and it talks about the US population and PTSD. It says about 7 or 8 out of every 100 people will have PTSD at some point in their lives, which is a lot for me, and I didn't know this before. And about 8 million adults have PTSD during a given year. And it was very alarming for me to see that about 10 of every 100 women develop PTSD sometime in their lives, compared with men that are only 4%. So women are 6% more likely to get PTSD than men. My second link, it's called "What is PTSD?" that I got from Twitter. This link talks about what PTSD is from the Hope Line, and it also talks about the signs and how to know if you got PTSD or not, which is something very important for people to see and be aware of. Then I found this quote from the PTSD Journal on Instagram, and this quote by PTSD Journal Mag is a very strong quote that briefly describes what having PTSD is like. It is being described as not only pain, but as a condition that affects you physically, mentally, and emotionally. Throughout Silko's ceremony, we can see that Tayo, the main character, is not only having internal pain, but he is also having emotional breakdowns. He cries a lot. He has these flashbacks from war that make him feel sick, like physically sick, and even led him to be at the hospital. He the whole trauma changed his life, and even though he goes back to Laguna Pueblo, which is his home, to try to get better from this PTSD and traumatic experiences, he struggles a lot with it since the memories that he has from war are not easy to forget. So it says that it's not just pain, it's a complete physical, mental, and emotional assault on your body by Jamie Wingo. Also, on Twitter, I found this image that shows some statistics of not US vets, but also Canadian and Afghanistan veterans suffering from PTSD. And it says of the 39,000 Canadian Armed Forces members who served in Afghanistan or in support of the mission, 3,578 have PTSD, which is a rate of 9%, which for me it is very interesting to see the statistics of PTSD because I had never put so much thought into it until I researched on this topic, and I thought that it was much less. This was amazing The Huffington Post posted a story about a black woman who served as a cook for the army, and she got PTSD from enlisting onto the war 13 years ago. And 8 hours ago, from the Huffington Post Black Voices on Twitter, they show his her story and how she struggled. They also show um, that 13 years later, this woman was found, and from the capture, she was captured, and today she suffers from PTSD, and she shares her story with us, which is very interesting. So today they published this article. I also found this video on YouTube by USA Today that talks about soldiers' addiction and struggles for help. Many soldiers tend to become alcoholics or drug addicts just to escape from their trauma, and we can see this in Tayo in the book Ceremony, since he drinks a lot and goes out with his friends to drink beer and has an alcohol problem that is reflected on the quote that says, "Reports note that since the Second World War, a pattern of drinking and violence not previously seen before is emerging among Indian veterans," which in this case, Tayo is not violent necessarily, but he drinks a lot of alcohol, and it is kind of like to escape from the trauma and escape from the pain he is feeling. So I found this, and I think it is important for us to be aware of what soldiers are going through and what they are exposing themselves to just to fight for our country. So I think that Veterans Day is not a day that should only be celebrated one day a year, which is Friday, November 11th. I think that Veterans Day should be celebrated every day, because throughout the world, around the world, there are millions of soldiers who are fighting for their country. And I think that it is very, makes me proud to know that there's people in the US and all around the world that are risking their lives and risking themselves to be diagnosed with PTSD later on, just to fight for their country. Also, I found this video on Twitter that it shows how service dogs help those who have PTSD. I can relate to this since my dad was having some health issues, and now he has a service dog that he takes him everywhere and helps him a lot with his anxiety and everything. So I didn't know that service dogs helped with people with PTSD, and here we could show that this video shows how a service dog calms war vet's PTSD's reaction. So I think that this is some kind of therapy, which is great. Also, I found this quote on Tumblr that it's a very strong quote that says, "My worst enemy is my memory," which for many war veterans, their memory is their worst enemy, literally, because all of the bad memories from war and the struggles at war are the things that are affecting them today and throughout their lives, because of this post-traumatic stress syndrome that does not let them live their life peacefully, since they've been in such situations at war that have impacted their lives significantly, and these memories are not easy to erase. Lastly, I found this blog from the American Flag, also on Twitter, which it shows about PTSD in vets is leading to a more sinister problem. It was posted 1 year ago, but 2 hours ago it was posted again on Twitter, and it talks about how PTSD also leads to alcohol and drug addiction in returning veterans from war, which also relates to Leslie Marmon's ceremony, since as Tayo returns from war, he becomes more involved in drinking alcohol and is being diagnosed with PTSD. Well, in the book Ceremony, PTSD is not yet like an actual name, but it's also known as war fatigue in the novel. But today it would be Tayo would have been diagnosed with PTSD. I think that the topic ceremony and PTSD is a very important topic for all of us to be aware of what PTSD is and the people that are suffering from PTSD, because I don't really hear a lot of people who are, and I don't think that we give the importance that this topic deserves. So I encourage you to read all of my links and look up for more quotes and look at the videos I posted, the video about the black woman and also about the service dog that I posted, which are very interesting and will help you learn a lot and become aware. Also, this video found on YouTube about the drug addictions and the PTSD on war vets. Also, I will encourage you to go to social media such as like I did, which I went to Twitter, I went on Instagram, I went on Facebook, and various social medias to find information. Thank you, and I really encourage you to comment or share this if you'd like. Thank you.